Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tenino City Council work session. We have before us Ms. Kateri Wimsett. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay. From Thurston County Public Health. She wishes to discuss the county's proposed vaping in public spaces ordinance. Step up to the lectern and make sure that the mic is turned on.
I had brought a presentation on a stick. I wasn't sure if you had a projector or not, but I also brought it in hard copy. So,
Oh, okay.
But
I don't think we're ready for.
I'm really sorry, so
projector.
I hope you might have to share, but I'll do my best here.
Rick, take off?
Yep.
Give us a thumbs up, we did everything.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, thanks. I'll also give you a copy of the other one too,
Okay,
for sure.
great, thanks.
No problem. So thanks for having me come out tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. My name is Kateri Wimsett, and I work in Tenino with PDAT. So before I actually start my other presentation on vaping, I do want to let you know that tonight I'm really excited to first introduce. We have a new fellow that's working with PDAT. This is Ozzy Wald.
Hello.
He's going to be working with the substance use prevention group here, which is PDAT, and go to Tenino Healthy Action Team for the next few months as part of her fellowship with the state healthcare authority. So we're really excited to have some extra help, and we've got a lot of things coming up in the spring. But I'm actually here today with my other hat from Thurston County Public Health. So I work as a health educator for the Thurston County Health Department and have worked for quite a while in substance use prevention. And one of my other jobs that I work on is tobacco and vaping product prevention. And so today, I'm here with you to talk around a policy that the county is considering around vaping in public places. So I want to do three things. First of all, do some education for you around vaping. Secondly, discuss with you the proposed ordinance that the county is considering, and actually ask you for any feedback and any questions that you might have from that as well. So let's start off with on the first page there, vaping products. I actually have a whole stack down there. There.
Looks like a water treatment kit.
What's that? Yeah, kind of. There's all different types of vaping products, and there's been a lot in the news, like especially the last couple months around vaping. So I wanted to start with some basic education. So there's all different types of vapes. There's about 500 different products on the market right now, different types of devices, no problem. But they all work pretty similarly. They have a mouthpiece. There's an area where you put liquid, what's known as e-liquid or e-juice, and then there's a battery. So the battery in this one is really big. This gets it really, really hot. That's how you get more aerosol. This is a Joule. It's a smaller device. It's made to be discreet. It's made to fit in your pocket or to be recharged in your school computer. It's very little aerosol that would come out of this. In fact, almost virtually none. And this is a vape pen. So there's different generations of devices that's there on that slide in front of you. The other thing that works with vaping is that you use your e-liquid or juice in them. So there's about actually over 8,000 flavors on the market, but all of the e-juices basically have 4 different ingredients in them. The first thing is some type of drug, typically nicotine or marijuana. The second thing is vegetable glycerin or propylene glycol, which acts as a solvent. And then the third thing is kind of a combination of flavor chemicals. And those chemicals are heated up in this area and create that aerosol that you see. Now what happens when you heat up those products really depends on the type of device and the flavor you're using. So this is kind of the part from a public health perspective that's hard when we talk about what's out there on the market, because depending on the device and how hot it gets, it can create new chemical compounds that are in the liquid. So the aerosol can have different chemicals that were created by that heating process. So it's a really interesting place to be versus in tobacco, conventional products like a cigarette, very regulated, has been for a very long time. You know exactly what's in them. I can tell you about the 7,000 chemicals that are in them. This is a very different type of product and it has had very little regulation up until the last few months. But the second slide there kind of deals with some of the public health concerns with vaping in public places. So the first thing has to do with that aerosol, because it can contain an unknown mixture of harmful and potentially harmful chemicals. Children, pregnant women, and individuals with compromised lungs are especially at risk for whatever is being exhaled. Secondly, one of the problems is that allowing vaping where smoking is prohibited implies that it's safe. And this has been contributing to the problem of rapidly increasing youth use of these products, which we're going to talk about more in the next slide. Another issue is that drugs are often used in vapor products, such as marijuana. So the state marijuana law says it's illegal to vape or to use marijuana in public, but there's lots of products that look just like this that are full of marijuana and are being used in public, and that's cool. And then finally, the e-juice does provide a pretty significant risk of poisoning. The reason why these are in bags is despite the fact that they're sealed, they have nicotine in them and they spill on your skin, they can poison. And depending on your age, if you're an adult, there's less of a risk, but for a small child, it can poison you. And that is something that has gone on for several years. Washington Poison Center works with those kind of cases quite often. So that's some of the concerns around vaping in general, but I want to delve a little bit deeper into this whole youth vaping piece of it. And the next slide has to do with that. So you'll see there on that slide a light blue and a dark blue graph. And this is from the Healthy Youth Survey, which is a survey that's done in public schools here in Thurston County in 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade. And it asks about a variety of subjects, but this is about vaping. So this has to do with students using vapes. And the question actually isn't like, have you ever vaped? It's actually, are you vaping on a regular basis? Like within the last 30 days, have you vaped? So you can see that the light blue number is 2016 and 2018 is the dark bar there. Every single grade in Thurston County has increased their use for vapes. And if you look at...
Do you ask why?
No, that's not part of the survey. But we can get to that when we get to questions. This really mirrors the work that we see nationally as well. So the National Youth Tobacco Survey saw the biggest increase ever in the history of their survey for e-cigarettes in 2017 and 2018. So for any type of device, this was the biggest jump they've ever seen. So because of that, that actually prompted the FDA and the U.S. Surgeon General to deem e-cigarette use by youth as an epidemic. And part of the reason for that is there's substantial evidence that vaping increases the risk of using cigarettes later and other combustible products, which tobacco use is the #1 cause of preventable death in both in Washington and the United States. So it's a big deal. Talk a little bit more about nicotine that's in vapes. That's our next slide. So when we talk about the known health effects of nicotine, the first one is that it can lead to dependence and addiction. And that's for anyone, youth or adults. But I don't think people understand, nicotine is actually, they say, as addictive in your brain as heroin. So it's very, very addictive. And when you introduce that in someone who's under age 25, whose brain is still growing, it actually changes the way the pathways in the brain work. And that is a big deal because it can lead to increased risk for future addiction to other things in the future. So nicotine is definitely a big deal. There's also changes in the brain cell activity in the parts of the brain for youth using that have to do with attention and learning and memory that can be affected by nicotine use. On top of that, if you look at conventional tobacco cigarettes, this whole thing about age in the brain, we know for people who become lifelong users of tobacco, 99% of people started before age 25. And that, because at 25 your brain's grown then, and so you're not going to have that big risk. So that's why trying to do this prevention piece before age 25 is so important. Finally, another health concern around nicotine in general has to do with maternal and fetal effects on pregnancy. So if it's being exhaled in aerosol out in the community and a pregnant woman walks by and breathes it in, it affects her health and the child that she's carrying. So let's talk a little bit about what's in that aerosol, and that's the next slide there. You'll see, initially when this was, e-cigarettes were created in China in the early 2000s. In the United States, about 2005, 2006. We first started seeing them in Thurston County about 2010. And often, in the very beginning, a lot of the advertising was about, it's just water vapor. Well, now we have substantial evidence and studies that show it's never been water vapor, and actually the studies of the secondhand vapor are now finding that it's really the same mix of chemicals that's in the firsthand vapor. So despite the fact that it doesn't, like a cigarette has a side stream smoke, this doesn't do, these cigarettes don't do that, but people are still exposed when exhaled to what's in the vapor.
It's side stream smoke.
So like when you're burning a cigarette and it kind of burns, so there's secondhand smoke when a person exhales and breathes on you, and then there's side stream
Oh, I see what you're
smoke.
saying.
So that, good question. So the levels to these chemicals in e-cigarettes are much lower than conventional tobacco cigarettes, but there is still a concern, especially for vulnerable populations like pregnant women, children, people with asthma or any kind of lung disease, and they're not harmless or safe. And there's really a lot of research that needs to be done on that, to be honest, and it is being done, but it does take time. And with tobacco cigarettes, we have 60 years of evidence around that. But I want to shift gears a little bit now and talk about the Washington State laws on public places and use. So one of the critical tools for prevention in tobacco work that was used to restricting smoking in public places. And that was passed by voter initiative in 2005. It prohibited indoor public places, smoking in indoor public places, anywhere in and around schools, and in places of employment. And that's what we call our SIP law, Smoking in Public Places law. And really, that was a tool that was really used to encourage people to quit, and did. It's driven down our numbers in Washington State to much smaller than they were before. Even in the 10 years that I've worked in tobacco, we've gone to around 20% to less than 15, which is a big jump. The second law, though, has to do with vaping. And vaping in public is regulated different than smoking at the state level. So there's not a lot of regulations around vaping. And in 2016, they did pass the state vapor products law, which restricted vaping in public places, in a few places only. So vaping is prohibited in schools and childcares, both indoor and outdoor. Vaping is restricted right now in outdoor playgrounds during daylight when children are present by that state law. And vaping is prohibited inside school buses and elevators. And that's it. And then finally, the other kind of public use area has to do with marijuana. Use of marijuana in any form is prohibited in public by state law. That's the Initiative 502 that was passed in 2012, but it has been, amended several times since then. But basically, these are kind of the basic laws that have to do with what's out there around public use.
And what are the teeth?
I'm sorry?
What are the teeth? Because everything that I've seen is said, you can't, but there's nothing to back it up. So we know that there's kids in the school buildings that vape. Chief has no ability to do anything about it. We know since the state said you cannot smoke on school grounds, that we still have kids smoking on school grounds, but they can't do anything about it. And the other problem that I have with this is we're talking about 25-year-olds when you have 18-year-olds. Once you're 18 throughout the United States, you are a legal adult. So why are we talking 25-year-olds and trying to restrict an adult from doing what they want in this case?
So in this case, it really has to do with this idea of clean air for everyone, because the majority of folks who are using public facilities don't vape or smoke, and they're being exposed to the chemicals and the things that have health implications for their health.
The only reason you said 25 years old, you were saying that the brain chemicals are still
Right,
affected.
the brain's.
Yeah, I don't think, there's no law restricting 24-and-a-half-year-olds from
Actually,
vape.
it's now up to 21.
It's now 21.
21, yeah, and actually that's going to be the next slide coming up here. But as far as the school discipline, there is school discipline rules around smoking and vaping on school property. And I know that that is not just in Tenino, but around the state, something that many school administrators are dealing with. Oftentimes with kids, when you're dealing with that problem, it's really finding them, I think we're really fortunate in the Tenino School District to have a treatment specialist who works in Tenino High School through the ESD, and part of the VDAC grant brings that person here because most schools in Thurston County don't have an on-site person who does treatment. And really, it's more than about, and so they are enforcing that. And I know they are, because I work in the school with those folks. Okay, to move on, or any more? Okay. All right, so the next thing that is just what you said about TB 21, which is the tobacco vapor law. That's another law that just passed in 2019 in the legislature, just went into law in January 1st. And really the reason behind it has to do with this idea of prevention and keeping people from smoking until their brain is a little bit older. Because you know, the further off you do that, the much less your chance goes down for risk of becoming addicted to the substance. And really what the Institute of Medicine found in a 2015 report is that passing that law actually would do a 25% reduction in people who start smoking. That's a big deal. A quarter of the population not starting smoking is a big deal. And it also could reduce smoking attributed deaths by over 10%. So that's also a big deal, because I know many folks who I've cared about who died from smoking-related illnesses. And really that is really some of the fundamentals of what we're talking about from the public health standpoint. When tobacco is still a #1 cause of preventable death, over 480,000 people every year just in the United States, it's a big deal. And that's just one part of the strategy though, for this whole prevention piece around youth. And so that has to do with the next piece, which is what the county is considering around vapor products and regulations. So the U.S. Surgeon General recommends this regulation as one strategy that's effective in reducing youth use and protecting young people from becoming addicted. And in Washington State, 12 county board of healths have passed these regulations. So about 76% of Washington State is already covered by these laws. But Thurston County is not one of those places. And the county commissioners will be considering this in the spring. And so what that law would do, and on in front of you, I gave you 2 extra handouts. One of those is kind of blue, and that's from the Washington State Department of Health. That gives you all the details about the ordinance in general, what other counties are doing. On the back of it is a grid that shows you how each of those counties is implementing that. And then the other one is an infographic, and that's actually from Spokane. And it shows, Spokane passed these several years ago, but this is an infographic that they use with their business owners to show basically on how does this law work. So it requires you to post signage, and it requires the 25-foot rule, similar to smoking in public places, and it covers indoor public places of employment. And that's really the gist of what the county is considering. I know I'd love to hear other questions or concerns. Those are good, those are important, that's why I'm here.
It's like I said, I'm trying to keep kids, underage children, from smoking, drinking, all of that stuff. That's why I was with Be That for so long. Okay? But when you get to that 18, that you're 18, you are a legal adult. You don't have to have your parents' signature for anything that you do at that point in time, even if you're still in high school. I don't believe it is proper to tell an 18-year-old you now have to wait until 21.
Can't do heroin, we regulate that.
Nobody can do heroin,
Yeah,
okay?
because it's
But
not
this is-
safe, but she's saying,
Same
well.
with their
Well, yeah, I'm not saying you're right or wrong, I just wanna play devil's advocate.
Well, that's
We
fine.
do say you can't do heroin, and so now they're saying you can't do tobacco until you're 21 because it's not safe. Well, you make the same argument.
You can make the same argument, but the same argument doesn't always fit. For example, I've known many people that smoked all of their life, and their life, like my mom, she died at 72, and it wasn't from cancer, and she was a 5-pack a day smoker.
That's a lot.
Well, it
Yeah,
doesn't,
that's a lot.
it doesn't just create cancer.
But
Cigarette
still,
smoke.
yeah, well, she was 72. That's just one of the things. She started when she was younger, lasted a long time. There's used to be a joke that there was a whole lot more old smokers, or in this case drinkers, than there are old doctors, okay? I can understand some of it, for example, heroin, because heroin doesn't just mess with you, it makes you mess with everybody else. There are great side effects that, one, can kill the person quickly, two, turn them into criminals, and you might become victimized by that person. But vaping doesn't do that. It might be something that I choose to do knowing that this stuff is not good for my body. We can say the same thing with a lot of different foods that are out there. You shouldn't eat that because it's not good for you. You've heard mom say it all your life, haven't you? Okay? Government is not mom. Once you get to that 18-year-old point, that person shouldn't have to worry, can I smoke a cigarette? Can I vape? Stuff like that. That's not going to make them go after somebody else and make that person become a criminal like heroin does.
Mushrooms, let's do mushrooms.
This doesn't. No,
She's not here to create a,
Yeah.
she's not here to create a law where it says you can't smoke till you're 21. It's already been done.
That's already been
What she's here advocating is that, just like you can't smoke in a public place, you shouldn't be able to vape in a public place. Is that right? Am I right?
Thank you, yes, that's exactly what I meant for.
Because-
And
so the
I know
21
there is a lot of,
argument
is
it's-
around TD 21, but it has already been passed by Washington State Legislature. It actually will be going on federally as well.
Yeah,
I know you probably-
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
President Trump said it, and I disagree with that. 18, fine, 21, they're already adults.
Don't vote for him in
for 2 years.
2020.
Yeah, you can disagree all you want, that's not gonna help.
But this is, so if you do have any questions specifically on vacant public places or I mean, because I'm happy to answer.
When was the last time Wintall Cop was down here? I had him down here 2 different times, and then
Yeah.
the ESD had him down once as well.
I actually think
He's
ESD
this
this
vaping
spring is gonna
expert guy.
happen. So,
Okay.
One tall cop is a gentleman who, Jermaine Galloway,
Yeah.
he comes in and talks
He can
about different types of
smoke
products and how, what parents can do to basically know what's going on in their kid's life. Yeah, and the ESD, I think, is bringing him in the spring. He was actually just out in the fall in Hopia.
Okay.
Yeah, he did a lot of great work.
I mean, I personally like this. I think the more we educate the kids, the better. Yeah, and it is very addictive. I know people who smoked for years and vaped to get off of smoking, and then tried to quit vaping, but vaping was so addictive, they went back to smoking because they couldn't cut the vape. So it's like,
Now they're doing both.
where do you, right?
I had a friend that got
Street
that popcorn
alley
line,
puff.
and he
The
got
data
seriously
does
sick.
show a lot of folks do
Yeah.
use both. and-
They're also dangerous when they carry them in their pocket and they blow up. I had one hit me, actually, right?
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and when they
Oh,
have that,
my sweater.
when they have that scent in them too, like you,
The flavors,
again,
yeah.
with marijuana, you can hide it in there too with the scent. So it's like if the kids are doing them, you don't know what they're doing.
Well, and quite honestly, marijuana vapes, there's no odor,
There's no odor at all.
right?
5 feet away, you can't tell.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's just addicting them and there's no way to detect. Oh, that's terrible.
It's not just marijuana, they can use any kind of drug that
There's a
burn.
lot that's
That's
vaped,
terrible.
yes, you are right. You definitely.
I know a little bit about this.
I know you do.
So I'm looking at this list of other places.
Yes.
So we are not proposing to ban and prohibit it in outdoor public places where children congregate?
Not at this time, as far as I know. They're looking for feedback, so if that's a thing that you are all interested, it's certainly feedback I would give back to the commissioners, but no, that is not part of what the.
Well, where's
We're not here
we're not
at
even on the list.
No, we're not on
No, I
those
know,
other
but
places.
this tells where we're, this one tells where we're doing it.
Like in Jefferson.
I think this is the one that's Thurston County's proposal.
No, that's Spokane County, so they passed theirs in 2016, and that is how they do it. That's just an example for you to kind of wrap your brain around how other places have done it. That's just a way that they market to businesses, saying, okay, we're gonna come in, we're gonna do signage, you know, that, just to let you know about how would that work from the enforcement piece on the county. And the
That's-
county that
that's-
does smoking in public places, that was a really good question. Is that smoking in public places is part of the county's purview. We have, our food inspectors and our environmental health regulators, when we do get a call, we work only on a complaint basis. So we do go out to places, our whole first piece is all about education. And helping the business owner come under and get complied, if they need signs, put signs up, and working with them to do that. And the same thing, Such brought it up about parks, so Thurston County parks have been tobacco and vape free for a long time. But it's not an area, you know, we don't have folks out in the parks who can do that. But it does allow members of the public then You know, I think of myself as an example. I'm not the kind of person that's gonna get in somebody's face. That's just not how I roll. But if they're blowing stuff in my kid's face at the playground, I'm gonna come up to them and say, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you saw the sign there. That's not allowed here. Can I watch your kids for you while you go off property for a sec? I'm happy to do that.
A lot
It just
nicer than I
allows-
am.
Well, I mean, it just
That's
allows
what I
folks
was
to
thinking.
be too. I mean, I think that allows people to self, and that's what we've learned in the parks, is that really it's all of, oftentimes there'll be folks there and they'll do education around it, and that helps. And it's also people with people, that will help. But if there's no regulation around it, I mean, I'm the person who people call when they're concerned about vaping in public places for Thurston County, and I have to say, I'm sorry we don't have an ordinance, and they're well within their rights. You can speak to the business owner about it, they can do a voluntary policy, but that's completely.
But we are gonna have an ordinance. There is
Well,
going to
that,
be
it will
one.
be up for the commissioners, for consideration.
So
And because the Board of Health is countywide and for the cities, it would be one of those few instances where the county's laws are adopted in the city even.
Right, because of the health code. Right.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
when the county board of commissioners pass other things, they have nothing to do with the city.
Exactly,
But this is one of those instances when it would be our law as well.
that is correct.
So I just had, my comment to take back is that I think they should be banned in places where children congregate. Just not only because of the exposure, because I think part of the responsibility of us as a nation and county is to not be the example. So
Exactly.
kids are seeing people out there vaping, even if it's not exposing them to hazardous things. I think it makes them curious.
Well, I can tell you, as the person who does this work for the county, if the city of Tenino ever is interested in adopting a parks ordinance, I would be happy to help you with that. We've done it in the city of Lacey, the city of Olympia, the city of Thurston County, and that was all the past 10 years kind of my work plan. So we definitely know how to pass an ordinance and what that entails, and would be happy to always work with any jurisdiction who might be interested in that.
But there's one coming down the pipeline, right?
Currently, the version of it, I don't believe necessarily has to do with outdoor places, but I really need to go back and look, but I don't believe I don't think we're gonna extend it that far. Because that isn't part of our natural thing to say, okay, we're also gonna do the parks.
So could we, as a city, adopt it, the whole city, not just the parks? Could we adopt
You
an
could, but you wouldn't
ordinance?
have to do the vaping in public places part, for public places is part of the purview of the health code for the health officer, the county board of commissioners, as the mayor said. So if you wanted to adopt it on top of it, you could, but I don't necessarily know if you would wanna do that or just pass an ordinance.
No,
around.
I'm misunderstanding that. I thought that there wasn't an ordinance in Thurston County to keep people from vaping in public,
In
Public
indoor
places.
places, indoor public places.
but not
Right.
outdoors.
So
There
if
is
somebody's
a
on the
certain-
sidewalk, they
Right.
just can't be like near a door.
But can we
25 feet.
adopt
Yeah.
an ordinance?
You're saying like a citywide,
Yeah.
like a prohibition,
That's what I'm
this is a
doing.
dry city kind of.
Just
We
kind of
don't
like
need
the,
to, because we're already covered by the county.
kind of like
Not for the parks,
fireworks.
it's not for
Yeah.
outdoors.
They will be adopting that, you watch.
But our park is, we have a sign that says no vaping.
Thank
I don't
you,
know.
thank you. I think that's a good idea, but, it's just me.
Feel free to call, cause I'd always be happy to help around anything.
But we allow smoking outdoors in the city.
Well, I would just assume they didn't do that either.
Well, I know, and it was
Thank you very much.
very nice when the world,
Yeah.
changed and all of a sudden people couldn't smoke in a restaurant
Oh,
anymore.
man, is it
Or,
ever?
in businesses, and that was a very nice change.
I just think it, no, I just
Well,
don't.
I will say all those places, Lacey, Olympia, Thurston County, they did adopt no smoking, no vaping policies. So they didn't just do vaping, they adopted, most of them already had no smoking, but they adopted no vaping on top of
In public places.
it, in their parks, or their parks. Exactly. Thank you very much, and I appreciate all your feedback, and I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks
Good
so
seeing you,
much.
Katara.
You guys
You
too.
can let us know next time we'll walk out down here, that'd be great.
For sure.
Galloway.
Yeah, for sure.
Mafia running cigarettes and vaping products through here. Well, it is 1920 again.
And heroin.
2020, Prohibition era. Thank you.
Yeah.
That brings us to item number 3. Now that FEMA has updated the national flood insurance rate map for our area, the final step to...
I
Sir?
didn't get a chance, I'd like to address something. I got here late, so I don't know if I have.
Okay, well, there'll be another opportunity for public
Okay,
comment.
That's good. That works.
We don't have too many more things.
Yeah. And yeah, when we're done with this, we just open it up. Now that FEMA has updated the national flood insurance rate map for our area, the final step to implement the new rates is for the city to ensure that our ordinances track with the language applicable to the new map. The state has provided a model ordinance, which is attached. The planner, Dan Penrose, and clerk treasurer Millard will use this to ensure Tenino is abiding by the proper guidance. John, do you have any comments?
This is on here so that,
Where's the map? I mean, I'd like to know, because I'm
Oh.
in that FEMA area.
Okay, well, he was talking, so if you could allow him to
Okay,
speak.
all right.
Thank you.
this is housekeeping with respect to our rules about not asking you guys to do anything before you've had an opportunity to think about it. The model ordinance, so the map has already been set, and we have gotten notified that it's going to be in place. And if the city wants to take advantage of any of the benefits of being in the flood zone, we have to adopt an ordinance that tracks with the new map overlay. So that is all that is occurring here. Planner Penrose has the model ordinance. He's making what he thinks are the corrections to it. When he's done with that, we'll give it to the city attorney for his view on it, and then it will put it in front of you for adoption.
I just gave it first scan yesterday. What are the benefits to the city for adopting that?
Well, the benefits of this,
Was the first
to
time
the
this
city
came up,
per
or was that
se,
never explained?
the benefits to the city per se are none. The benefits to our citizens that choose to opt into the federal flood insurance program, the new map gives us better rates.
So this is your opportunity to peruse the drafted ordinance, and it will be on a future agenda for discussion, and we can, if you just hold,
I have a question about that.
we'll get to you. And this will be on future agendas, so peruse it, read over it, let us know if you have any questions. We have one more item, and then I'll invite you up. This year, the Tenino Farmers Market has submitted 2 separate special event requests. One request is for the use of Olympia Street South, thank you for coming, between Sussex and Central Avenues for their vendors as usual. The second request is for the use of Olympia Street South between Central and Park Avenues. And one purpose for the additional space is on behalf of the Tenino Palladium Car Club. So that's put before you for your perusal as well. So we have 5 minutes left. You can come up now. We also have a public comment period during our regular meeting. But if you'd like to come up and introduce yourself, and
That'd be good.
go ahead, sir.
The first thing was.
If you'd speak, yeah, speak into the microphone.
Back to the FEMA.
Okay, so introduce yourself.
Steve Chin.
Okay, address.
Well,
City and
which one? I mean, I
City
own
of
several
Justice.
properties.
Where do you reside? Yeah, that's just part of the.
Thompson Creek Road,
Okay.
right. But it's within this zip code. And so my question was about the FEMA thing that I was trying to ask you, is that you said within the city of Tenino. Well, does that include the entire zip code? Because
No, you're not within the city of Tenino.
All right, that answers that,
Mhm.
thank you. Anyway, my name's Steve Chin. I'm kind of a newcomer here. I've only been around about 13 years. Okay. So maybe you can call me an immigrant, I don't know. But at any rate, people in town know me. I'm retired from the city of Portland. Police officer down there for over 2 decades. Prior to that, I was carpenter, all this stuff. I'm here to ask that perhaps the mayor step down immediately based on his behavior and several other issues. I don't want to bring them to light right now, but I will meet with you in your office and we'll discuss it. You can bring anybody you want with you as witness. And that's pretty much why I'm here. So,
Okay, do you have any further comments?
Actually I have. I'm fairly well read and educated. I think it was Papa Hemingway who made the astute observation that intelligent folks such as yourselves need to be drunk to spend time with somebody like Wayne.
Okay,
Is
we're gonna cut
anybody-
this off if we're gonna
Has
start
anybody developed
naming
drinking
or
problems?
going this far. No, we're done.
Alright,
Thank you.
alright, well, I'll meet you in your office and we'll discuss these things. It would be to your advantage to meet with me, to keep yourself out of trouble.
We're not gonna threat the mayor either.
Alright,
I'm
thank
not
you, sir.
threatening anything,
Alright, thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
I'm advising
Thank you.
you. You bet.
Alright, that is it for the work session. We will take a brief recess and we'll begin our meeting at 7:30. Thank you.
Turn on that heat. My hands are freezing. I'm a dog, my nose is cold.
Says 76, it doesn't feel like, does it?
No,
So 74.
I'm a healthy dog.
You need Jason's glasses?
Yeah,
Because you lost all your body fat, you don't have any insulation anymore.
borrow Jason's glasses, it says 74.
It doesn't feel like it.
Doesn't feel like 74.
No.
66, 67, maybe, but not 74.
You guys can read that for me?
I can't, no. I don't know.
The glare. It's too glary.
Yeah. She's married.
Yeah.
People want it to be.
That's what I did when I was
So let's do it.
So you got it. Hello, Joe. What do you know?
Didn't recognize you, John.
I've been thinking all afternoon of questions to ask you.
Oh, thanks.
It just comes up to your time.
I've used that old word too.
How are you?
Yeah.
Have you started that dancing thing?
No.
Yes. I got some people telling us that,
Yeah, I will
you know that dancing thing down,
work on it.
you tried to work on?
No, I don't know. Dancing? The Chiefs annual song club. I didn't know about that. Or was uninvited. And that's okay.
It's
coming up.
Joe, you need to.
It's yourselves, Rick.
Hey,
It's against my rules, you can't see.
I talked to some people and they're really interested on coming down there dancing. You know, like the 50, 60, some of the older gals.
The circle of death.
Oh, interesting. Where's it gonna be? Involved?
Well, he
That's
says,
why I use this.
Well, you're just gonna have to rent it.
Keep meetings are free.
Charge a big bucks.
It's just sitting there
I
trying.
don't know how much you think I can get from you.
I don't know. I'll have to try Joe real hard.
I think I'm out of time.
Well, that would be nice for the, you know, older people.
No, I think that'd be nice. Eventually. Like in the comments in high school.
Yeah.
They're spending.
Well, it sounds, they got sound. All that, yeah.
Yeah.
They want to, if they talk them down.
They know what it is.
It's an advantage of being a little salesman.
Yes.
I think it would be cool because
I would never think to try to talk them down.
that would be cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the January 14th Tenino City Council meeting. Let the record show that all council members are present. Please stand for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an agenda before us needing approval.
Move approval.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to the consent calendar.
Move approval. Second.
This is payroll EFTs in the amount of $34,182.01. Claims checks number 28792 through 28835 in the amount of $183,000.22 and $183,022.68 for a grand total of $177,204.69. Oh, I got 68 cents here. 68 or 69, it's one of the two. For a grand total, okay, of $217,204.69, along with liquor and cannabis license applications, renewals, a renewal for Whistle Stop Market, and a new one for Tenino Shortstop. We have a motion, we have a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes, thank you.
Move approval of the minutes of December 10th, 2019.
We have a motion to move to
Second.
approve the minutes for December 10th, 2019, as well as a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, who was the second? Jason?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Alright, minutes passes. That brings us to presentations. We have Mr. Superintendent Joe Belmonte, who will present to us tonight information on Tenino's school district's program and operations levy.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me at this time in front of council. Nice jacket. Good to recognize
Nice
you,
jacket.
Chris. Yes. We call each other.
You guys coordinated?
Yeah, we text each other.
No, it's the women, you know.
Well, anyhow, moving right on.
Camera, make sure you're smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here to talk about the Tenino School District, not only the program and operations levy, but kind of the whole district as a whole and kind of where we've been and where we're headed. I think it's important when you talk about levies or program and operations or capital levies or whatever that you are telling the story of the district or the organization, because people want to know why. Why should they support something or why they shouldn't support it? So the first page, I know you all have the handouts in front of you, is the district mission. I'm not going to read that to you, but the focus for me is to provide our kids opportunities. That is, to me, the key word in our mission. We want kids to have their opportunities. We've done a lot in the past 5 or 6 years to build that. You know, couple concrete examples. We added art specialists at both the Tenino Elementary School and the middle school. They didn't have that before. We've added advanced placement and honors classes at the middle school and the high school. In fact, I was talking to Ms. Purr, the high school principal, and who came from Tumwater High School. She said we actually have more advanced placement opportunities than Tumwater High School. So that's the key, is we want to make sure our kids have opportunities. In a small setting, we don't always have the resources, a big setting, but we can do some things if we're smart with our resources. So one of the things I wanted to draw your attention to is the enrollment. For the past 6 years, we've had steady enrollment gains since 2014. Now this is FTE, so this is both full-time and part-time students. We actually have a little over 1,300 kids now. Started at about 1115, we're up to around 1,300, 1238 is the FTE. Or 1296, I don't know why it says 1238 on the graph, but the real number is 1296. You guys were only off a penny, I was off several here. One of the telling things about the organization, which really speaks to the culture of the district and how that's changed in the last few years. If you look at the slide that talks about student transfers out of the district, prior to when I got here, we had 264 kids transfer out. And you think of that, if you add 1,115 onto that, you get a much bigger number. This year, we only have 169 kids transferring out. So I think that speaks to what's happening at both the middle and high school, because we typically lost kids between 5th and 6th grade and 8th and 9th grade.
So are those all students that live in the district who go to school?
That's correct, yeah. Yeah. But I think that really speaks to the program and what's happening at the schools, that families and kids don't say, hey, we need to get out of here, they want to stay. I think my slides are a little backwards. What's the next one you have on there?
District profile.
The profile of the employment. One of the things about, if you look at our district, we employ 173 people, 75 are teachers, 90 are classified staff, there's 8 administrators. Half of our staff live within the boundaries of the Tenino School District, not just the city, but the district as a whole. 65% of our teachers have master's degrees or higher. Our operating budget's $18.3 million approximately, and 76% of that is staff cost. 17.5% of our program and operations levy, that's what the program and operations levy is, 17.5% of that 18 million. We also have a capital budget, capital levy, which I'll touch on in just a second. And we've spent about $9 million over the past 5 years on facility improvements. And I think that's pretty evident. The most striking one is the stadium renovation project. A part of the district profile of the students enrolled is 1323, that's the head count. 56% of our kids qualify for a free or reduced lunch. The state average is 43.4. So we have a little more poverty in this community than typical. However, our graduation rate is 91.8%. That's the on-time graduation, kids graduating in 4 years. The state average is 80.9. So I think we're doing significantly better there. You can see the growth in academics. This is a cumulative of the whole district. So in math, in 2015, we're at 27% proficiency, 38% in English language arts. That's what ELA stands for. And in 2019, we're at 42% and 58%. So we have a ways to go, but I think we have real positive growth over the last few years. One of the things, is your next slide the pictures? Okay, so you can kind of see a before and after picture of the stadium, what it looked like before and what it looks like now. And the reason I put this in there is, okay, we did good work. We have kids staying in the district. We have, well, that's part of our story, which is the other slide, is that over the past 5 years, the enrollment has steady growth. Student performance has increased. The district's added program offerings. There's been a focus on improving security and just the facilities as a whole. I think this speaks to our management of taxpayer money. I mean, there's a lot of deferred maintenance that was not occurring before, but now I think we've got a real handle on it. Things are going in the right direction. There's 2 types of levies that we currently have. One is the capital levy, or the current capital levy, and that pays for deferred maintenance, technology, facility improvements, and small renovations. Those monies can't be used for programs, so if people say, well, you got money in your capital projects, you can't spend that money on curriculum or teachers or things like that. And that also funds the technology that students use in the district. That expires next year or at the end of 2021. And the programs and operations levy, that's the levy that's on the ballot for on February 11th. That pays for the programs, services, operations that aren't considered basic ed, and therefore it's not funded by the state. The state's changed the model. You heard about McCleary and all the talk about school funding. It's been a big topic in the last couple of years. And the way it used to work is they would, the legislature, the state would provide a pot of money, let's say that $18 million, they would have that pot of money to the district, and the district decided how to divvy that up. And then what's happened now is they said, okay, we're going to give you that pot of money, but you can only spend it on basic ed. And so if that one last chart that I have on here, I think it's, I don't have mine very organized, John, I'm gonna blame you on this.
That John.
That John over there, yeah, exactly. But if you look at the table I have in front of you, so the state defines basic ed as the things on the left side. So even if they give us a pot of money and we had extra, we couldn't spend it on things that were not considered basic ed. So anything on the right side of the table are things 100% funded by the district, so all athletics, music at the elementary, middle, and Parkside, art, technology support, any extracurricular activities, things like band, after-school band, choir, robotics, summer school, school resource officer, safety initiatives. All of those things are fully funded by the district, and that's out of that program levy. And one reason I think it's important when I talk to folks is, if you kind of talk to the parents, and I was just talking to the PTSA folks over at the district office, and you ask them, okay, what should be in school? What's basic education for your kid? Everybody's gonna say reading, writing, and math. It's pretty standard, social studies, science. People will talk about that, but most parents, and I was included in that when my kids were younger, is I want them to have art, I want them to have music, I want them to have those opportunities to participate in athletics or music or anything like that. Those are things that I think keep kids in school. I know, I think about my younger daughter, who, if she didn't have things like FBLA or art, or some of those CTE classes, voc ed classes, she may not have gotten through high school. And those kept her in the game. And now she's making more money than me, so that's a good thing. Since she'll have to choose my rest home when I get to that age. But I wanted to share this, that the state, for example, provides a 0.2 FTE of a nurse for 4 schools. To give you context, North Thurston, which has 22 schools, they get the allocation of 2 FTEs for their 22 schools. We all spend more than that because that's what kids need. Special education is another, it shows 90-10, so we spend about $4 million a year on special education when they fund 90% of it. And so that's sort of an unfunded mandate. So those kinds of things that we want kids to have access to, we want kids to have those programs. That's why we're doing the program and operations levy. The last thing I would say about that is, I think on the other page, the current rate per 1,000 assessed value is $2.50 per 1,000. So in 2020, that's what Tenino School District property owners would pay. And we're asking the same amount each year for the next 4 years, so that we are asking for the maximum allowed by law, but it's not going to be more. So I'm not here to answer questions, or I kind of give you a 100,000-foot view in a real quick period of time. But any questions I can answer or thoughts? Yes, sir.
Over the last several years, there's been a real conversation about preparing kids that aren't college bound for other things.
Yeah.
Is Tenino looking to have shop classes, economic classes, things like that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. There's something, we call them pathways now. The verbiage changes. But part of the facility improvement that we did, John, is I think that we started 3 years ago, but the last couple of years we spent about $250,000 expanding the wood shop and the welding area. We went from 7 welding stations to over 20. We enclosed that, if you know that little building behind the high school, we enclosed that, put whole welding stations. We've received a grant of $45,000 last year and $50,000 this year for new equipment for the shop, both the wood shop and the welding shop. It's a really big deal for me personally and the board to make sure that kids have those opportunities. We always talk about, and it gets a lot of press to have AP classes and honors classes that get kids college ready. But the reality is, there's really good jobs and really good careers out there for kids who aren't gonna be on that college pathway. And we wanna make sure kids have that opportunity. So we have things like welding, construction trades. We have, of course, FFA and the whole ag program. We have, the computer science type of program, what we're partnering with Microsoft right now, where one of their technicians or coders or whatever they call them, is remotely co-teaching the class with one of our instructors. And the kids just a week and a half ago, went up to Microsoft campus. So we took 50 kids up to the Microsoft campus to tour the campus and to talk to people who are doing the real work. So there's that kind of opportunity. They get to see people who are actually doing the work that isn't their teacher. We're reinstituting next year. It used to be called home ec, but we're going to actually be putting those programs back into place, and that is by request of the students. We want to listen to our kids.
What's it called now?
It's not called anything now. Next year, there's different names being kicked around, but one of them is going to be called Senior Seminar. So we're going to have seniors who have met a lot of their requirements, or most of them. And there's cooking, how to do laundry, how to change a tire, how to do checking account,
I was just gonna say, how to balance
Yeah.
a checking account.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that when I was in school they were doing.
Yeah, exactly. And so that had gone by the wayside. There, it's that pendulum. And now, but I think it's real important that we have those skills available to those kids.
So are we looking at classes like in the future, plumbing, electrical, stuff like that? Those are very high paying positions.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact term, but it's more like a manufacturing technology kind of thing. It's
Just touching on a little bit of everything.
It touches on a little bit. There's, of course, we got welding and construction, woods, that kind of thing. Those are our standbys, but there'll also be, how to do like sheet metal type work, plumbing, electrical. It's going to be like a survey course that they
So
can
that is
touch on.
coming in.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, and that's a real big deal for us.
Question?
No. This is during the meeting, it's not there's no public comments.
I was just gonna offer,
I-
I've got machines that I
No.
could.
You can speak to them after the meeting.
We'll talk later.
After hours. Just a second.
Sorry.
So those are the type of, those programs are a really big deal for us. And actually, I would say they're getting more attention than like the college prep type stuff. We're still doing that. We want kids to have that opportunity, but we also want our kids who aren't college bound to
Sure, you're
do
offering
that.
opportunities for all.
Yeah, and that's the key, is going back to our mission, is to provide opportunities for kids. Yeah.
That's great.
The other piece we're doing is, and we've been working with some recruiters from the Army and the National Guard have come out, and a lot of the kids are taking I can't remember the name of it, the test that they take.
The AV test.
What's it called again?
The
ASVAB, yeah, that's right. It's one of their pathways, is that.
That's why you need to talk to Navy, where ours was the AVs test.
Okay, you guys can talk about that later. But, that's another pathway for kids. Some kids, the military's the right way to go, so. Yes, sir.
It's not really a question, but just for people's knowledge, I think too, important that the district's been very successful with grants. They've done a lot of work with grants, and like the city has, I think probably millions of dollars in grants that we've been able to get.
Yeah, I think thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point. Most of you know we have a solar array on the high school, and Dave has been really instrumental in working with some community members and some organizations. We basically got a grant from Transalta and a grant from Commerce, and that paid for the whole thing. I think we paid less than $1,000 for that, and that was mainly for permitting and things like that.
Fabulous.
And this last year alone, we saved over $20,000 in electric costs. We paid less in utilities, plus we got a rebate, because we put power back into the grid, so it's been about a $25,000 swing for us. The other piece, and Dave and I were just on a conference call this morning, or this afternoon. I guess I shouldn't really be talking about that, but PSC has a grant through Commerce that's gonna put a solar array at the substation, and that will partially power the high school as well. And they're gonna have a battery backup system that is for the whole community, not just the high school, not just for us. So
The
that's
stadium
another
lighting
one.
was another huge
Stadium
money
lighting,
saver.
yeah, the stadium lighting costs about $400,000, and I think the district paid about 60. I got grants for the rest from Transalt and other places. And the field, the stadium field, there was another like $250,000 in grants to help offset some of the cost of that. So we've been really aggressive in trying to find that money. It's out there, so why not? Why shouldn't we get some of it? So I think it's a matter of just kind of being tenacious about that and going after it. So, and you guys have been a great partner. And the partnership we have with the city, with the police department has been really positive. The chief's been really supportive, and couldn't be happier with that arrangement as well.
Great.
Other questions for me? Thoughts?
Thanks, Joe.
Don't forget to vote.
Next up, we had on the agenda Mr. Rich Edwards, the city historian. He's unable to make it tonight because of the weather. So I'm just going to read his presentation and then we can talk about it. I apologize for not being present at the council meeting this evening. This is Rich speaking, not me. I have asked for a place on the agenda in order to ask you for a statement of support for my proposal to correct the spelling of Chain Hill. So he was going to come in and give a presentation on the history of the name Chain Hill. As part of my work as the Tenino city historian, I monitor various social media groups about Tenino and try to provide answers whenever historical questions arise. Over the past few years, the correct spelling of Chain Hill has been a topic of discussion several times. I have written a one-page history about Chain Hill and Charles Chain, after whom it is named, showing the correct spelling should be Chaenn. The history is in your agenda packet. I'm not going to read all that. Google Maps and other mapping sources use the United States Board of Geographical Names official list of names. In their database, they spell the hill just north of Tenino, Chain, one of the many variants used over the decades. In order to correct this, I am submitting an application for correction to the Washington State Board on Geographic Names. The application is in process. Application in process is in your agenda packet. That application has an area to list support for this proposed change. If you wish to show the city's support for this proposal, a proclamation of support for your consideration is in your agenda packet. If passed, such a proclamation would be added to this application. If you have any questions or wish to know more about the history of Chain Hill or the process, I would be happy to answer them. Again, I apologize not being there at this time. So he's done a series of one-page histories, and tonight, this guy's fantastic. I love this guy. Yeah, he did a presentation on Saturday at the library. Yeah, and he's all over, and he's gonna start doing them at the winery. So it is in here. You're gonna stick around?
My time's over, I guess.
All right.
Thank you.
Later on, we have under proclamations, and we are requesting that you consider approving a proclamation. So, if you have any questions for our city historian, he's not here, but if you have any questions about us doing this, we could entertain them now.
I move approval.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, that moves past public comment period. Unless anybody in the audience would like to provide public comment, you're allowed to come forward and do so at this time. No, I won't resign at your request. 4 more years. That brings us to proclamations.
I'll second that motion, John made to approve the proclamation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It has been moved and seconded to approve proclamation. Where did I find it in here?
Page
Presentations, proclamations.
First time, last paragraph.
Okay, by the city of Tenino, a proclamation for Chain Hill, CHAENN. We probably don't have one, if we could, we'll email, Dan a copy of that one-page history in case he's interested in it.
Yeah. Funny thing, I have never seen it spelled that way.
Yeah,
I normally spell it CHAEN.
yeah,
It was
I've
just
seen
the
it
one.
maybe 3 or 4
I
different
have-
ways.
But, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
take
he'll
his
send
word
you that
for it.
history.
The fact that I've never seen it spelled that way doesn't mean anything.
Well, yeah, and Rich is a crazy good
I've seen it
researcher.
spelled CHEIN.
I've
I
seen
didn't
that.
realize Google spelled it like chain.
Chain, yeah. So,
I
whereas
would
the
object to
hill,
that myself.
latitude 46.88037770 north, longitude blah blah blah, west in township 16 north, range 1 west, section 7 of the Willamette Meridian,
Yep.
has long been a part of Tenino history. And now therefore we, the mayor and city of Tenino, of the city of Tenino, Washington, do hereby proclaim the support of the city for this application, changing the name of Chain Hill. Be interesting to see if this is pulled off. Let's just change all the names of all
I'd
kinds of
invest
things.
$500,000 to change.
How about Waterson Hill, we'll do that next. Yeah, $500,000. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the proclamation?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, city historian.
Who seconded?
Waterson. New business. Tenino Farmers Market made 2 requests this year. Their normal request for Olympia Street South between Sussex and Park Avenues, and a separate request for Olympia Street South between Central and Park Avenues. Recommended action is to move to approve the recurring request as submitted. Move to approve the use of Olympia Street South between Central and Park Avenues, provided that the farmers market will secure a save and hold harmless agreements in favor of the city from any invitee of the market displaying items of more than nominal value. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have a question about the new part.
Yes, sir.
What, do you know what the use is gonna be there? The car club, is that what I understand is gonna use it, or what's the intended use for that?
Just a second, I gotta call it public works.
They want the space for additional vendors and to offer the Tenino Quarryman Car Club the ability to have like a mini exhibition as part of the farmer's market.
And I was just trying to think, is there any residents that are face that street there on that section? I know on the one side, I don't think there is. Is there one residence down there?
There's residents down that on the, it would be the east side of the street, there's residents, and on
There
the
just one?
west side of the street's Tenino Telephone, so if they had an emergency, and one of the biggest reasons they are where they are is their trucks can get in and out there on Central, so
I was just curious about the residents, if they had any concerns, or if they would limit their access or anything like that. Was my only concern is, have
There's
they been
that
told,
one, there's the house
have they
on the
been asked for their
corner,
input
then there's
on
one
what?
other house, isn't there just one other
I thought there
house?
was one right there.
Yeah, the single-story house behind the one on the corner.
you could approve the use of that with the caveat that they have to contact those folks and, more than 50% have to approve or,
I think it's
something.
fair to give them a chance to speak up and say, hey,
Yeah.
I want to make sure,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
my only concern, is that residence.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Departments get easy in, easy out.
but I like the fire departments, just their access and having it.
And what is the
something
extra-
going on for their
what
house
is the
there
extra
for
location again?
Every Saturdays, kinda.
Right.
Besides their normal,
In front of
What's,
my house.
Oh,
Dan has
sorry.
a question.
Olympia Street South between Central and Park Avenue,
okay.
and, which is in addition to their normal request of being on Olympia
It's
Street.
just been Olympia to Central,
Yeah,
so Central to Park
Next
also.
yep, cool. All those in favor?
Alright.
Right.
Those opposed? I missed something.
Yeah, he's
I don't know,
got an
I was saying
agenda.
it.
You're gonna amend the,
I just wanted to amend the whole thing with the new part, to say that they needed to contact, I think there's only one residence that really faces the street there, if I remember right, and I think it's fair to give them a heads up and say, hey, we're talking about doing this, and there's just a.
Okay, so we can pass it as it's presented, and then we'll just make sure that they're asked to make sure that they inform the resident. Is that right for you?
I just like to know if they have any concerns.
Yeah.
try to mitigate whatever.
Okay, any further discussion? So, yeah, if the resident does have a concern, then we can bring it back to you
Yeah.
guys, or we can see if we can, thanks for coming, see if we can manage that
Thank
between the parties, and if it needs to come back to that. But we will be mindful of that, that's a good point, thank you. Alright, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to item number 12, Mr. Doug Ma, who proposes the attached contract for the conduct of this year's council getaway April 25th, 2020. Recommended action is to move to approve Mayor Fournier entering into agreement with Doug Ma and Associates as written.
So moved.
It has been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to enter into the contract. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
You should let Rachel second
I've been trying to get into it.
some. You not up to.
Number 13, it has been a custom of Tenino City Council to elect a mayor pro tem during the first regular meeting of each new year. It has also been a custom to confirm committee appointments during the same meeting. So the committee appointments,
They're attached.
yeah, they're attached. We can, you guys take a look at them. If there's something that you don't want to do anymore, or there's something we want to add, maybe you can let us know. Well, you can let us know next meeting. But because this is the first time you're seeing it, maybe you can look at it and we can bring it again up at the work session. But I think the assignments have been good. I haven't heard any complaints. Everybody's pretty well established in what they're doing. I don't know if we're missing anything. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the committee assignments?
No, but I
Email
move
to
to
the list.
approve to retain Dave Watterson as mayor pro tem.
Well, let's do that next.
Okay.
The thing with committee assignments is for me, I'm on a few that are daytime, and I'll still try to make them. I've given up things to go to those meetings, and next year, there's gonna be some times where I can't make every one, so I will do my best to make all those meetings.
Okay.
And I usually try to look to see if there's anything that's critical going on, if I can't make it, so I can,
Before we have seconds.
I know, but sometimes it's kinda last minute too, so.
Okay.
But anyway, just so people know that.
I don't think anybody's gonna be sweating you if you miss a solid
Here.
waste advisory meeting every once in a
It's,
while.
most of the time, it's not anything that's.
Yeah, a lot of them you get the updates and you provide them, so I mean, yeah, I think if you get into the year and you think that you're not
We can move
doing
it.
it well, we can figure it out.
And we could certainly move the finance committee meetings to wherever is convenient.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, I am not hearing any other comments regarding committees or commissions. Okay, so now we will ask for nomination, or well, a motion.
Motion's already on the floor.
Motion, okay, we have a motion on the floor to make Dave Watterson the mayor pro tem. Do we have a second?
I'd like to make a motion.
Can't
Well,
remember this
first,
first.
that motion has to either go or die, or, so is there a second? Okay, motion dies. Jason?
Oh, I'd like to make a
Councilmember.
motion to, let's have Linda Godovac as mayor pro.
We have a motion to name Linda Godovac as mayor pro tem. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? I don't know what happened. Raise your hand.
I said
Aye.
Nobody opposed.
Okay, alright. Motion passes. Thank you.
abstain, Linda?
I didn't hear anything, Linda.
Yeah, I didn't say anything. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So 4-0 and 1 abstention.
Okay. Alright, we have a passing of the motion. Thank you, Linda. Dave, thank you for being a faithful and attentive mayor pro tem. You gotta indoctrinate Linda, and there's a week-long training session. Alright, that
I
brings us.
resign.
Yeah. That brings us to resolutions, none, ordinances, none. You're just a heartbeat away from the mayor's office.
Yeah, right.
Reports, Chamber of Commerce.
Linda wasn't at the last one.
Yeah, but I was at the board meeting.
Yeah. the
Go
board
ahead
meeting's
and, go ahead
different.
and talk about the chamber meeting,
The
because
chamber-
I wanted to talk about the board.
Yeah, the chamber meeting was real, it's the normal December meeting, a few people show up, we sit around, we talk, and more socialized than anything else, and we were given a report about the new members for the board,
Right.
and that's pretty much it.
We had a board meeting on the first Wednesday, well, second Wednesday, because the first Wednesday was
New Year's Day.
Day. And the newly elected officers of the board are, well, Joyce is president, Cheryl Pierce is vice president, I'm the secretary, Denisha Mitchell from the OB Credit Union is treasurer, and then we have Tom Pogue from the Lady of the Lake,
Awesome.
Denny Hansen from the Time Machine, Stacy Lucero from Choose Love. Well, oh, and Will
We were still
Rutherford
there.
is still there, yeah. That's it. We elected three new people, we increased the board, and we had a really, really good meeting. And decided that we're going to work very hard and try to get grants to do a lot of improvements on the streets of Tenino, and possibly see what we can do about the parking lot behind, the city parking lot behind the sandstone.
We talked to about the agreement with George Sharp. That hasn't been
Well,
spoken yet.
we've hired George Sharp. George Sharp is our lead man now on everything. He's doing membership, but he's doing a fantastic job.
Be interesting to see what he does.
He's already done a ton of things. He does a spotlight on businesses. He's interested in contacting new business and helping them and doing ribbon cuttings and things like that before they ever become a chamber members. Yeah,
Good.
things are happening.
Also, I'm not sure if everybody knows, Chambers instituted what's called First Fridays.
Oh, yes, 7:30 in the morning on the first Friday. We have a morning chamber meeting now.
And they go about an hour specifically talking about how to do different things in your business. The last one was how to use social media better, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they're having mini seminars on all of those meetings.
He gets some good speakers from the EDC to come and talk to us.
Yeah, to have staff, that's
Yeah,
a big
you're not
step for
kidding.
the chamber. Okay, EDC, no report, VCB, no report, fire district. Oh, the one thing I want to talk about in committees that I thought, that I forgot to talk about was, so the fire district is kind of, you know, I think for a while I've been the point person, but now we have a commissioner sitting among us, and I think it might be wise to kind of, I don't know what your thought, maybe you and I can talk about it, but it is almost like another commission. And I think that, you know, there's a good opportunity for that to be a good conduit for the city.
Okay,
But I don't know.
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple of things I can bring up real quick and easy. For example, the house that's been across the street from the fire department, they're looking at doing a real inspection on it, because every time somebody stays over there, they're getting sick, so we think there's black mold or something, but we've never really looked at it. If it is, the thinking at this point is to just tear the building down and use it for something else.
Is that the church?
No.
One of the
No.
owners of the church?
Across the street. That's right.
It's directly across the street, the gray building.
On Central.
Oh, that's one
Right next to Serena's.
I don't even know where she lives.
Yeah.
She lives right across the street from the library. But in any event,
I'll go by there and look at it.
But in any event, for the last few years, it's been used for the guys that stay overnight, and they've been getting sick. So we've pulled them out of there. They're staying at this station and one of the other ones around. This way, one of the things that they're not doing, when I was with the department, Wayne was with the department, we all had pagers. And it didn't matter where you were, if the pager went off, you dropped everything, you ran to it, and sometimes it would take 15 minutes, and sometimes it would be just a couple of minutes, depending on where we all live. While they're going more to people staying at the station. This way, the response time is dropped drastically, which is good for everybody that needs to call the fire department for emergency needs or stuff like that. The new tender is in. Oh, it's a piece of work, I'm telling you. The old one, if you've ever looked at it, it had one dump station. This one here can dump its water off of 3 different sides in just about 2 minutes. Everything that it's got 12,000 gallons in it, so it's 1,200 gallons. The good part about that is if you've ever driven in the old one, you had to really know where you were going to slow down because the water would slosh. And that's not a good feeling when you're driving that thing. This one's got enough baffles in it so that you almost never even feel the water in it back. It's it's a beautiful system. And Thursday was my first commissioner meeting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. One of the things that we talked about, and I made them make some changes to, was the contract for the new chief. And they're looking at bringing the new chief on May.
Is there gonna be a competitive hiring process?
According to the lawyer, that was the first thing that I brought up. According to the lawyer, Skip's been around since longer than me. Yeah, you know
Since I
Skip.
started here.
Yeah. So he says because it's the fire department, you don't have to go out for that. And that was my first question. I'd never heard that before, but Skip's saying, no, we don't have to do that, so no, it's not going out.
Yeah, it's a choice of the commissioners, but it's typically a wise choice to have a competitive hiring process and not
Which
just
is
handpick.
exactly why I brought it up.
Yeah,
But that's not gonna happen.
fight that, good luck.
Yeah, well, I flat out told him, is that if there's any trouble from this, I'm the only one that's not in trouble for it. That's pretty much it. It was a good meeting. Like I said, I beat up on that contract pretty well. You know, one of the things that they have a severability clause, and I hate severability clauses. We talked about that for a while. They didn't know what a severability clause was. It's gonna stay in because everybody's happy with it, but I'm not happy with it. Let them do that. I did not sign for vouchers this time because I'm not familiar with who all the different people were, so I'll start signing on vouchers again at our next meeting. We meet once a month. Otherwise, it was a pretty good meeting.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Library. Trying to remember if we've had a meeting since we met with them.
We did, and I wanna say she sent a report, but I don't see it attached here, so I have to go get it from the last meeting.
Okay. Museum.
Again, we're closed for the year. The winter tours have slowed down a little bit, even though we still have around 75, 80 people that have come through. I've been to a couple of county commissioner meetings, and people are coming up to me and saying, how do we set something up? They haven't done it yet, but they're asking how to set up the winter meetings. One of them is for another group of homeschoolers, and there's about 45, 50 of those. So the giving the money out as a gift to the county seemed to give us some pretty good publicity out of that, which is one of the things that we do anyway.
Nice.
And the museum met with the VFW and is wondering when they can come and make a presentation.
Okay.
That's about it.
Arts Commission.
Is that me?
That is the
Creative?
arts, arts, recreation, creative.
Well,
and
George
historic.
wanted me to import the members of the task force that he put together.
Okay.
And that is me. I'm this SLAM liaison, Lions Club representative, and small business owner, Joyce L'Oreal, Jessica Reeves Rush, Ed Solero, Donna Taylor Mayo, and I don't, do you know who she is?
Yeah.
She has the glass etching that's down in the old, okay. Sherry Bachman and Stu Waldrop and Wanda Blanksma from the Tenino School District. And then, of course, George.
Cool.
He also wanted me to mention the Makers Fair that Ed Salerno's putting together. The other half of the shed has been cleaned out of the furniture, the Joyce's and my
I
furniture.
didn't see that.
Okay, And there is a veteran, that is
Nonprofit,
teaching
yeah.
nonprofit, and he teaches
Woodwork.
woodwork and they're gonna be including the stonework and teaching them how to carve stone and it's gonna be quite something.
Very therapeutic. If you've ever done
let's-
anything like that, it's really, I used to do a lot of woodworking, it's very therapeutic.
Let's see, it says we met primarily last month to confirm their interest in serving on the committee and have another meeting planned for tomorrow night. The vision, mission, and values of the creative district. Mayor, upon approval of the committee and the application documents, I will be providing you, the mayor, to submit a letter of interest to the Washington Creative District certification program on a net Roth next month. So,
Okay. So Service Commission has not met, Planning Commission,
Each tomorrow night.
okay. Facade Improvement Grant Review Committee.
at the chamber meeting, do I need to do that? At the chamber meeting on the 8th, Tom Pohl was there, and he bought the sandstone building of the mini market. Lady that like did, the brothers did. And I talked to him about, I understand you're gonna do some signage or something out there, that's what this grant is all about. And he said, so I emailed him an application, and he's gonna get it filled out,
Perfect.
bring it in to you.
Yeah, they'll be all over that.
Scope work.
Say he submitted one.
Did he? Well,
Yeah, they won't mess
I
around.
thought, I
They'll-
thought he might, because I immediately sent it to him, and he thanked me, so I knew he got the email right away.
Excellent work.
I just haven't had time to coordinate with him.
Finance, so I would be interested in and when I might wanna mention this to him, like, so there's several businesses in
Oh, I
there.
know it.
You know, would they be eligible to join together and get, you know, cause like that sign they have that they would be replacing has multiple businesses on it.
Well, that's a good idea.
You know, would they be, you know, maybe think about pooling, you know,
Their
together
resources.
and they could, you know, they could maybe get a little more to get a little nicer sign because it's multiple businesses.
That's true. Stu
Yeah.
and the photographer
Yeah.
and somebody else.
Something to think about. Finance Committee has not met, Public Safety Committee has not met, Chief of Police.
Have you met?
Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Robert Swain, your Chief of Police. I'm gonna start off by showing you, the mayor given us directors mandate earlier that he wanted a professional photograph made of each department. And so I'm happy to present City Council this official poster size of
I love it.
Please
I
look
love
at
it.
it.
It's really great. Dan wants to get a picture.
Yeah, hold that. You just bumped the superintendent out of the front page.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give this to John. He can put it
Thank
up
you.
there somewhere.
Is it autographed?
Yeah. No autographs.
Actually, that would be a good idea if everybody signed it.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
The other thing I have is, so, you know, I get these.
Do we have a digital copy so we can put that on the Facebook page?
Yeah,
That'd be a good banner on the
It's,
top.
It's on there.
it's on there,
Yeah.
it's on our Facebook.
Okay.
So this company contacted
Ah,
me and
yeah.
said, hey, chief, can we
Oh,
Can
jeez.
we offer you a sample of something? So the latest of the greatest now is
I love
poker
it.
chips
I love it.
Wonderful.
instead
Somebody made
of
those for-
challenge points. So I went ahead and took a couple of liquors to
Dog
see.
he has with the uniform.
You'll see my new partner and me.
That's funny. That dog, the dog was out at the Christmas tree lighting. Somebody was traipsing around with it in uniform.
It's the exact English word.
Yeah.
The same as our,
I like
this one better.
One too.
yeah, he's got one. Winston.
Winston.
It's Winston.
It's a little different.
It's cool.
So,
It's a clay chip,
yeah,
seriously.
yeah.
So now those are great.
Anyway,
Oh, my
as,
God, here.
like I said, I took a couple of liberties there. We were playing around with those, and I haven't decided yet if we're gonna do the challenge coins or those poker chips, but we'll figure that out as we go.
I'm old school, I like the coin.
Yeah, the coin, they came out very good the first time around, so. Just a real quick report out on a couple of things. First, I would like to show you the proclamation that we got from the County Board of Commissioners. So I'll pass this around. And this is in honor for
This
law
week?
enforcement appreciation day.
Every year they do this.
Yeah,
We got ours out by tonight.
yeah,
He gave it to me a while ago.
yeah.
At a meeting.
So moving on then, moving forward, the mayor also gave me a mandate to look into animal services and what those costs would look like. And so I did meet with the new director for animal services for Thurston County. And there's a lot more to this than I ever imagined. So they have it broke down in, it's almost like a police department. They have it broke down into different investigations. So cruelty investigations is different, welfare checks are different. Dog